Greetings, everybody. Father Leo here. Now, for a time before the coronavirus came into Canada, I was having guests, and I could interview the guests, and they were people who were playing an important role in the life of the city, doing their part to help this city and the quality of life for various people to improve and to grow. So it was working very well. Then, of course, the virus came along, and that really put us back where I couldn't have anybody in, and I didn't want anybody in, and so I took isolation. And it's okay, you know something? I didn't think I could ever tolerate isolation, but it's been fine with me because of technology. Isn't that it? Technology has made it possible for me to do things I could never have done otherwise. Now, to get to the point, I'm going to be putting on material, content, ideas of the new story. We've had our faith story for 2,000 years, and in the late 20th and the beginning of the 21st century, in the North, Europe, North America, it's not working. And if anybody can't see that it's not working, then they must be walking around blind, because it's not working. The numbers in our churches are dwindling quickly, and dwindling they are. And especially a lot of churches, the congregation is made up of elders like myself. And of course, you know us elders, we ain't going to be around here forever. No sir, boys. We'll be taken off for the promised land. So having said that, when I listen to people, they're always, and the journalists in the paper, they're all using the word change. That when the virus has come to an end and we get back into life again, active communities, life is going to be radically different. Radically different. There will be changes in the way that the governments function. There will be changes in the way that economic systems. There will be changes in the political systems, changes in traveling systems, changes in the communication systems. Everywhere they're talking about change. And people recognize this, and of course a lot of people who are in a position are saying, yeah, we have to change, we're going to change. For example, it could be that since a lot of people are working from home, maybe they'll never go back to the office. And maybe that'll be part of the whole thing, is the way in which people work. Could be one of the big changes. How we do with the environment, for example. The oil patch is having a difficult time now, and maybe it's going to be minimized or maybe ended altogether. Who knows? Now, I'm not going to get into that. I just want to say today that the only organization or institution that's not talking about change is religion, the churches. It's the same old, same old. Now, there is a lot of discussion about when and how will it be structured when we do return. But they're not talking about the real issues. And I want to speak about just two issues today that need to be confronted, challenged, and changed, okay? And they're not being confronted, challenged, or changed. The number one is structure. Now, the structure has been hierarchical, and like a triangle. And the Pope on top, and the Curia, and the bishops, and the clergy. And of course, with the clergy in the hierarchy, they're all men. But that's the structure. It's been the triangle. But Vatican Council talked about circle. And that's the new thing that has to come into our church. If our church is going to be saved and kept alive, then it's got to be circle. It's got to be circle. And a circle, of course, means synod. Synod, where not just leaders, no, that won't do it. Where ordinary believers sit in a circle and have the power to make changes. That's critical. If they're not empowered, what's the point of making suggestions to the hierarchy? It's not going to do any good. If we look at a synod, then the synod must have power to restructure the church. And I'm not the only one saying this. A lot of writers, journalists, are saying we have to restructure the church. The 21st century no longer can function from the top down. Can't do it. It's just going to go in the toilet. Now, so that's the first thing, is what kind of a structure? And the one they're recommending, of course, is the synod. Because a synod, if it's really representative of the church, and by church I mean the people of God, if it's really represented by the people of God, they'll have ideas, the Spirit. The Spirit will move them to see new and creative ways of structuring this church so it's more responsive to the times in which we live. You know, one of the things I've seen from the structure is the inability of religion to look at life from the 21st century. We have got stuck in sin. We've got stuck in saving souls. We've got stuck in looking after getting people in the next life spirituality, a God who's outside of creation, all of that stuff. It's over with. It's over with. Our God is a God of incarnation, a God who's incarnated in all of creation. And when I say all, I mean all. Rabbi that gave me a line which I like. God is the source and the substance of all that is. The source. That's no hard. And the substance of all that is. And when you take that and really think about it, and ponder it, and let go preformed ideas that were given to you when you weren't thinking for yourself, then of course you'll see the difference. But the big way that the church has failed is this world. Justice that is seen in the church, and the church which is out there in the world doing justice. And we have really failed in that. Now, it's not because our leaders, I'm thinking of the popes, who've certainly written what we call encyclicals on social justice and the environment. I have found in Peterborough here, when I approached some of the priests about doing something about the environment, most of them hadn't even read the encyclical Laudate Si, hadn't even read it. And we're not interested in doing anything about it. And here, the most important issue in our time is the environment, climate warming. And so there are big issues which the church should have been speaking out on and getting involved in. It's not enough. Talk is cheap. It's getting involved and preparing people to get involved in our world. The kingdom of God has to do with this world. But you know, I find now that so many even practicing Catholics, there's no fire. There's no fire. No fire. And then many people just, the big thing is to be accepted, to get along with everybody. Oh, aren't we wonderful, we Catholics? We don't cause any trouble. We get along with everybody, and they all really love us because we're so much a part of everything. What a lot of nonsense. Because we don't believe in it anymore. That we are a missionary church, and somehow our mission is to the world in which we live, and the people, and the animals, and the environment. They're all part of those issues that we have to be a part of. And so I'll have to talk about that more. I just want to point out it's the church has got to be in the world and making a difference in lives of people. It has to become good news again. So that's number one, is the structure. The second thing that has to change is our faith story. Now, we have a faith story that is very sacred. That's been a powerful story. It has meant a lot to people down through the ages. But you see now, living in the 21st century, the story has morphed into something bigger. Science. We take, for example, the writings of Teilhard de Chardin, which are really being brought forward now. And the universe. We live in an unfinished universe. It's unfinished. And how's it going to get finished? Well, evolution. But you see, we have to understand that we're not just souls to be saved, but we are people of the story. People of the story. The new faith story is us. It's us who open up our minds to become literate. In many ways, I guess you can say a lot of people are illiterate today. They just don't know. And of course, if they don't know, not that everybody doesn't know, there are a lot of people who do know, especially sisters who are certainly out there. I think of Sister Ruth Hennessy, who just died, a phenomenal woman. These Costa Maria homes for the refugees who come into, she brought into Peterborough, gave them a house to live in, meals, taught them English, got them a job, or they got their own business, and have settled nicely into Peterborough. Like this woman, along with a lot of other women, have been out there in the world making the world a better place. Kingdom of God. Kingdom of God. And that's what we have to be committed to again. And if we're not going to be committed to it, then we've got nothing to say. But the thing is, how do we get fire back in our bellies? How do we get a zeal? So we really do want to play a part in bringing about God's kingdom, the reign of God, the community of compassion, the community of empowerment, as Omerku calls it. Compassion of empowerment. People to be empowered equally, and no more of this keeping women in the background or second-class citizen. That's over. It's over. It's over. Our world knows it's over. Here in North America particularly, we know that's over. And yet it's not over in many religions, our own included. So that's the other thing we have to do, is see how we nurture along evolution, unfinished universe. How do we play a role in bringing that forward into the future? The Alpha and the Omega, the beginning, the completion. And we're at that stage 14 billion years. And some scientists will tell us we're just started. We're just started. But many of us, if we look at the changes in the last 50 years, we certainly know that it's not finished. The world you and I live in today is much different than the world we came into 70 or 80 years ago. Much different. You know, and I know it. And so to sum it up today, there's change. And the thing is, it's not good enough for the churches where everything else in the world, everything else in our country, where everything else in our city is changing, for the church to be the same old, same old. It's not being true to God. It's not being mature. It's not being responsible. It's not being adult. We're to come of age. And coming of age, we have to take this change seriously. Take it seriously. Everything must change, and not just the things we'd say of the world, but the church has to change. And the two I mentioned today is, number one, the structure. It has to change radically. People are fed up with their hierarchy. They're fed up. And it's too conservative. It's too rigid. It's too conforming. And it holds, grasping onto what used to be. What used to be, not what could be. So that's the first, is the structure. The second thing is our faith story. That's got to get up to date. The new story. And I call it that because it's really the old story morphing, because now we include science and faith, science and religion, and the two together gives us a whole new view, a whole new world view of God and the things of God, and how we as a community, an empowered community, can make an impact on our communities. And that's really one of the critical parts of this. So those are the two things I want to leave with you today. Change structure, change story. And then I'll come back next week, and I'll come back and I will start to deal with some of the very specific items, issues, concerns, ideas that we need to reflect on, and hopefully it'll help you to come of age as a believer. God bless.